So the fat guy in a little coat was just a regular joke between him and David Spade that they would just do in a shared office. And he's like, I swear to God, if you're doing fat guy in a little coat, I'm not turning around.
As a large man myself, I've done fat guy in a little coat a lot in my lifetime.
I've seen the 7 p.m., the 9 p.m., the 11, and the 2 a.m. showing of that. All spectacular.
Gen Wars. Welcome to Gen Wars, the generational podcast between the Gen Xers and the Millennials. I'm your host, Nick, and with us is our usual band of misfits, Cam, Katherine, and Steven. On this side of the screen, we have the Gen Xers, and over there, we have the Millennials. How's everybody doing today?
Great.
Holy shnikes, we're doing great.
Better than the Chiefs.
Son of a...
Oh.
It's dating the episode, Steven.
Absolutely.
Dating the episode.
Absolutely. Just like big coop, the G company, big six.
So, if you didn't get what Katherine was saying, today we watched 1995 Chris Farley and David Spade classic Tommy Boy, directed by David Segal, starring Chris Farley, David Spade, Brian Dennehy, Bo Derek, and Dan Aykroyd, to name a few.
Rob Lowe.
Peter Segal.
Oh, did I miss Rob Lowe? How did I miss Rob Lowe in there?
Everyone
Jesus.
missed Rob Lowe because he's uncredited. Boing.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
I found that out too, yeah.
It was directed by Peter Segal, not David Segal.
Damn it, Peter Segal. I'm trying to get through this real quick so we can get into talking
Red
about
fire.
Peter Segal or Segal, however you say it. Sorry, let's cut that one in. Peter Segal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It should match the lip flap. It'll be fine.
Perfect.
Yeah, it'll fine. I'm pretty good at keeping consistent
flap.
throughout. So, if you haven't seen this movie, I don't know why you haven't, but if you haven't seen this movie in a while, I'm going to give you the short synopsis, because there's a much longer one, and I don't feel like reading all that. After his auto parts tycoon father dies, the overweight, underachieving son teams up with a snide accountant to try and save the family business. Now, that's putting that all in a nutshell and removing the whole other subplot that I'm like, I don't feel like reading all boring everybody to death.
Subtext.
So, has anyone ever been cow tipping before? I'm looking at the millennials from the Midwest.
Cow tipping isn't a thing. We won't fall for it. It's like snipe hunting.
No.
You can't fool me.
I mean, we have always heard about it and thought it was funny, but we're not going to run out into a field to do that by any means.
I didn't grow up on a farm, dude. Like,
I know you didn't. I don't know. That's how we think about it. It's Midwest. Are you guys just farmland and
I
cows
spent a
and-
lot of time in a farm in Kansas, but we were fossil hunting,
Okay,
so that
so
doesn't
I'm
count.
not-
But yeah, if anybody thinks they can tip a large animal of that caliber, good luck. Like,
similar as-
sure.
it's as similar as people asking me if there's more than palm trees in Florida. So it's like,
Yeah, there's also alligators.
yes, that's true. Well, do you have trees?
in the palm
Yes, we have
trees?
trees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coniferous trees?
No, the iguanas fall from the palm trees.
Yes. It's
Danger.
raining iguana.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Now that everybody has doxed themselves in their location.
I didn't say where. I just said
General area.
She flies to
general
Disney
area. Yeah.
all
every
the
day.
time.
All the time.
Using those airline miles like it's nobody's business. Speaking of airline miles, let's talk about the Funky Store.
Oh, Funky
Yeah.
Store. There's great
Oh.
merch over at funky.store. You can't be as cute as cuddly as Chris Farley, but you can get some merch that'll make you feel just fine over at the Funky Store, funky.store.
There you go.
Nice segue.
So, Katherine, speaking about spending money, how much did this movie make?
Let's just kind of go rapid fire,
Well.
like release date and all that information. So it came out on March 31st, 1995. It was shot in Toronto and Los Angeles, but it took place in Ohio. Interesting. And the budget was $20 million. Average budget
Okay.
for a movie in this time period in 1995 was 50.4 million. So it was low
Budget
budget.
film.
It was a comedy film. Yeah, it was a budget film.
Mhm.
And first weekend earnings was a little over 8 million, and total earnings, it did not go worldwide, was 32 million. So it was considered a commercial disappointment in theaters. It didn't make its
Interesting.
success. Yeah, it didn't make its success until VHS and DVD, like home video. That's where it got its cult following.
Yep.
So this is another movie that's produced by Lorne Michaels,
Yep.
and I mean, kind of came from the SNL world, which they don't. I'm trying to think of one of the movies that have come out of that.
Wayne's World.
Yeah,
Was
Wayne's World
Wayne-
was one
but-
of them.
Wayne's
What
World
was
was one
Wayne's
of the
World?
most highest grossing films for them at over 100 million. So,
But like in its run or post that, like in theater run.
yeah, I think in
Okay.
theater run, it's at the top of the list for them as
Okay.
benchmarks coming out of SNL.
Didn't
But-
it do well globally as well for some reason? I've heard that like other cultures like at that time were like Wayne's World, like that's America, and they really enjoyed that. I don't know if I'm
I mean, I
making that
didn't
up.
dig
though.
into Wayne's World, so
But
I mean, I can look into Wayne.
also at the same
cover
time,
that.
Sorry,
We'll
different
cover
movie,
that.
dude.
Lorne Michaels is producing Billy Madison, and Adam Sandler and the crew stayed at the same hotel that they did when they were filming Tommy Boy. So he was definitely using the talent off of the show. It wasn't
Oh,
necessarily sketches from the show, but it was that talent putting them to work out there.
I got
Okay,
numbers
Billy
for
Madison
Wayne's
was
World.
also in '95, so I think it was like I'm not by no means am I saying that this is trying to they're crapping on this movie, but they've been doing this for a long time, trying to capitalize on can we grab a character, this person who's famous here, and propel them into, or take one of their characters like Superstar or something like that and make a movie out of it, which I don't know if that's another movie for another time, but you know.
Blues Brothers.
Blues Brothers, yeah.
If you want to go backwards,
Okay.
and something interesting that I learned through this research was that Dan Aykroyd started that prior to SNL, and it was a musical act into it, and he owns the rights to it, so he was able to make money personally off of it when they did the movies. And I didn't realize that his business is House of Blues as a result of that. Like he owns the House of Blues establishment from that. So I mean, like that was someone who played the game right. But yeah, I think Lorne Michaels has been tapping those people for a while to put them out there, especially because of what that original cast did. So by the time we get into the 90s and we have, you know, the Mike Myers, the Dana Carveys, the Adam Sandlers, the Chris Farleys, and David Spades, you know, those are hot commodities. They're killing weekly, and that was essentially the golden age of SNL too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
I was able to pull some numbers on Wayne's World just to kind of put this into perspective. Wayne's World was a budget of 20 million, and domestically it made almost 122 million.
Damn.
And
All right,
then
you were spot on.
worldwide was 183 million. So like internationally was 61
Yeah.
and a half
Okay.
million.
Which is just mind blowing to me because like, is it that compelling outside of the U.S.? I wouldn't say
I think-
at all.
I think funny translates because
Yeah.
a lot of this movie is physical comedy. Chris Farley did do his own stunts. He fell through the own table and landed flat on his face. He ran into multiple panes of glass. Spoiler alert. Wood fences. He
did
hit his
all his
head on
own stunts,
multiple things walking into the forklift. So like I think those kind of things translate to an audience. They can see that. You don't necessarily have to know that you don't have to be from Ohio to understand what he's going through. Or Toronto, wherever you are.
Steven, were you saying that Wayne's World translated to a global
Wayne's
audience?
World, but that's
okay.
fine.
I was
Yeah.
like,
I don't know. I don't think the global numbers weren't good for Tommy Boy, right?
It didn't go
Probably
globally.
not.
Yeah, it didn't at all. Yeah.
no. Which is interesting. Did anyone? I'm assuming you all typed in Tommy Boy to Google, and it's
assume
not
wrong.
listed as Tommy Boy. It's in. I'm assuming that's French. It's like just my computer's doing this.
Yeah, you turn your VPN off, buddy.
I
Oh,
don't
it
have-
isn't. No, no, it's in French. I see
Tommy
that.
Boy.
Yeah, it's Mong and Lodi, is what
Yeah.
it's.
Did it pop
listed
off
as.
in
I don't know. I'm
French?
I'm probably not pronouncing that
Distribution?
right.
Pretty
so-
shoddy here.
That is weird. Google, what are you doing?
Did you see it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's on my. It's my phone right now. I don't know why it does that.
Yeah, I thought I
Alright.
did something to my computer last night or the other night, and I'm like, oh,
What?
I was like, did I screw this up? So I had to make sure I didn't screw it, but
Oh. Fun activity for the audience. Go Google Tommy
Yeah.
Boy.
I feel like I need to use the translator to find out what those words mean, especially with the ampersand in the middle. I don't know that that's necessarily saying Tommy and boy, but
no.
They probably tried to make it like a buddy comedy with David Spade character and Chris Farley's character. That would make more sense if you're translating it out.
yeah. And the only reason I think it was Pulp Fiction, where the guy in the opening scene is like "garçon," and the waitress comes over and says it means boy in French. So
So you know
I
that
don't
one
know
at
if
least.
that's true, but that's my movie knowledge.
Just took it from Tarantino said it, and we're like, fine, go with it.
Accepted.
I mean,
You're
I believe
illiterate
him.
in French.
Interesting awards for this film.
go on.
it?
Did it get a
Yeah.
Saturn award
No, it got an MTV Movie Award.
Oh
for
man.
best
Best-
kiss?
No, unfortunately. Best on-screen duo.
Oh yeah.
It was nominated for a Razzie though, for Bo Derek for Worst Supporting Actress.
She's pretty bad though, but I mean, she was never cast for her acting ability. Let's be real.
No. She had other assets.
A 10.
Yeah.
Geez, pops.
As Big Tom would say.
That was it, really.
That's
There was
okay. I didn't think there was any when you said there was awards. I was like, wait a minute. I don't think
there was one.
I knew that.
And it was also Chris Farley was nominated for Best Actor, Comedic Actor for MTV Movie Award, but he didn't get it. So it only won one award, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was his first outing. I think he
Yeah.
crushed it, but I
Yeah.
mean, the fact that they won duo speaks more to the movie. It is a reimagining of the Abbott and Costello vibe of the yesteryears. Like, these guys play tremendously well off of each other because
Yes.
they spent so much time in the writing room together working on sketches and putting those things out there. So, yeah. It's really about both of them. So I don't think either one of them could have really won because they play well as the team.
yeah. A lot of the jokes from the films, like Tommy Boy being stupid, actually happened in real life, that they just put it in the film. So the fat guy in a little coat was just a regular joke between him and David Spade that they would just do in a shared office. And he's like, I swear to God, if you're doing fat guy in a little coat, I'm not turning around.
As a large man myself, I've done fat guy in a little coat a lot in my lifetime.
I have seen the 7 p.m., the 9 p.m., the 11, and the 2 a.m. showing of that. All spectacular.
Making it a song was original for the film, though.
That's
So,
perfect.
Oh, okay.
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
There's a lot of real life moments that come into this movie too. A lot of the car scene, the hood
Yes.
flipping up is
Yes,
a
that
real
happened.
thing that happened.
I think it happened to the director or the writer or something. He forgot to take
Yes.
the oil can out. Yeah, and the door. He did that to his door.
The
too.
director did that to his own car. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Have you ever had that happen?
Hyper-extending.
The hood
Only
thing?
my leg.
I've had the hood thing happen to me twice. It is the most terrifying thing ever. It happened
That
on
sounds
my
horrible.
Topaz and on my Subaru. It was not
Not
fun.
the Subaru.
The Subaru.
Not the Topaz.
Yeah, I know.
Oh no.
God, yeah, the Topaz has
you
just
gotta-
a square hood, and it was just like, oh god.
That was the Mercury equivalent to the Taurus,
Tempo.
right?
The Tempo, yeah.
Oh, the Tempo, yes.
Yeah,
All
smaller,
right.
even smaller.
Yes.
Should have just duct taped it down because the Subaru already had duct tape all over it.
Oh,
dude.
so did the Topaz, don't you worry.
Wow.
Effective.
Held together with duct tape.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
It'll fix
Wasn't
it.
there like a family bet where you're like, I'm just gonna duct tape this shit?
Oh yeah. My dad said like it wouldn't hold, and then I said, okay, let's see how long it held, and it lasted longer than the car did. So I could have replaced it, I could have fixed it, but I was like, no, I'll see how long it goes, and I think it was 2 years. Then it held it on.
And she just, man, just getting your ego even bigger every time you're right.
I know exactly, and I'll chase it too.
All right, Steven, I know you haven't seen this movie, and this is why we are here today, because
Yeah.
Cam
Gathered
drops
here
a reference
today.
Different
at the end of the
movie.
last recording.
Yes.
And Steven hadn't seen it, so Cam was like, Tommy Boy it is, let's go.
Yep.
Yep. It was really, really good. I've quoted this movie so much
Without knowing it.
without knowing, because I had
love
seen the
it.
clips. The Chris Farley, like, I love my little sail, and I'll pet it and stroke it. Then oh my sail. I've
You
used that.
definitely use that as a.
Of Mice and Men. Is that the reference?
You've explained
right?
certain situations, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I guess it could be directly from Mice and Men.
with the mouse part.
Kind of. I think that's
Like kind of
just-
I think that's like I think that's what he's playing on, and he goes
For sure.
off from
Sounds
there.
about right.
Yeah.
You know, interestingly enough, could you picture that woman as Roseanne Barr, the waitress?
Sure. Was she supposed to
Sure.
She was supposed to be, but I
Well, they
like
dodged a bullet.
looking back on it. I kind of wish that she like. I'm glad that she wasn't. I like.
Yeah.
I like how this woman caught us off guard in there. There are cameos. There are people that pop up in this movie, and you're like, oh, that's funny. Oh, my God, it's Rob Lowe. And to get to a Roseanne Barr scene right there, I think would take away from the scene. And I like the fact that woman's like, no. And it felt a little more natural in that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's obviously the turning point in the movie that was like, I can sell stuff when I don't care. So, yeah, glad to see that it wasn't Roseanne Barr.
Yeah, I feel like
Agreed.
they could have just like walked into a diner and started shooting. They're like, "What's going on? Okay, like what do you want?" And he just busts that out, and that's the genuine reaction that would have happened. It's great. I love that.
I was wondering how you were going to fare with this movie. My girlfriend also said she hadn't seen it either, so
Nice.
I was like, I wonder if she would like this. I'm like, I feel, I mean, this movie's been in my life for, you know, whatever it's been now, 30 years, Jesus. And like, I don't know how a generation below us would see this movie and ingest it, since
There's definitely things that you can't do today, you know. And there's a lot of things that, like, specifically like a post 9/11 world is not. Nope, can't do that.
Nope.
It's true.
Yeah.
You can't do it twice either. Like,
No. You can't do that.
yeah, I noted, no,
Yeah.
this is definitely pre 9/11 with just walking up to grab a ticket at the counter, which I'm assuming you may be able to do in some capacity, but I haven't flown anywhere in a long time.
Well, I'm speaking more, like strapping a bomb to your chest and going into a
Well,
building.
no, I knew where you were going.
I mean, it's the little things that really changed in society, but
Are we going to glaze over the 85-mile-an-hour Taurus that's ramming into a brick wall merely feet away from all these people that are just walking? Some of them need hard hats, but the other ones, their brains are strong enough.
They're fine.
I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that they weren't wearing hard hats.
No, it's
I
like
did not catch that, no.
when you watch it before, it's just like, oh yeah, they're in the test facility, but you're like, what test facility is this? This is bonkers. Don't do any of this. Yeah, here, just use the wheel and spin the cap into the stratosphere. Everything was kooky and zany. And I think that's, in a post 9/11 world, I think that's what we've lost in movies is the ability to be zany, because now there's real life restrictions around you that kind of prohibit you even being able to do this or make it plausible or any of that. So it's a period piece.
It's a period piece.
Hey,
we brought it up again.
Hey.
Hey.
Extra. We got a period piece here. It's got a French title, but we'll call it Tommy Boy.
Tommy Boy.
It's a horrible name.
Oh, poor Tommy Boy. He's just doing his
No.
best. Well,
It actually had a worse name. And I forget what that was because they were writing Billy Madison at the same time. I feel that
It was
all
called
of those,
Billy something.
Yeah, and Billy Madison had a horrible name too.
It was called
Well, so
Billy the Third, a Midwestern. That's what it was called.
Ugh.
I mean,
Terrible title.
that was a way to go
What?
directly to video if there ever was with the title
Yeah.
like that.
Absolutely. Well, I was
Yeah.
wondering so when I was thinking about this movie and then you just said Billy Madison, I started running through my head like, how would Steven fare with Billy Madison or my girlfriend or even my nephew or it was at a very specific time and it was when I was at that right age, like, does it still translate down the road?
I haven't seen Billy Madison in a minute.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say I think it still does in the same way that this movie does.
Okay.
I feel like we kind of got ahead of ourselves in the beginning of this when the way Steven came in, but I really feel that this movie is special in the sense that the way this was cultivated from Saturday Night Live, from a group of writers, them filming both of these movies at the same time, staying at the same place, going out at night sometimes. I feel like it incubated good movies out of both of them, and kind of pushed the limit, especially if they're talking about their stuff and they're like, that's funny, and they're getting those kind of reactions from their peers. I think that still kind of translated. Billy Madison was batshit bonkers back in the day. I mean, it's still going to be the same level of ridiculousness, but in this pre-9/11 era of absolute zaniness, I think it would still translate in the same way.
I think the Zoomers might like it.
I think so. So I have like a
counterpoint,
and then I'm going to counterpoint myself just like immediately after, just because I
Go
can do
for
that. So I will say, like, the zany parts that hit really good are the ones that feel realistic. That feel like they could have happened, like, on like some kind of like real world sketch thing, like when we were talking about the scene at the diner, the big guy in a little coat scene, like him like going through the table at the frat party. Like, those things are so grounded in what we're housekeeping.
Yeah. Housekeeping 1.4 pillow.
How
What kind of a hotel is this?
like that's so grounded in like what, like a couple of dudes on a weird road trip would probably devolve into. I feel like the longer you're on a road trip with your boys, it just gets worse and worse. Like, you're razzing each other. It's just getting
ridiculously
horrible.
unhinged.
Exactly.
Yes.
And by the time you're coming back, you're like, what have we done? what did we say? But what kind of like eats at that is when it goes way to things that aren't realistic, like going in and pretending to rob the place, and the cops like throw the guns and stuff. Like it's not the same level of hee funny. To me, it's a little more over the top, like theatrical funny, like like I would say a good Mel Blazing
Brooks.
Saddles, Mel Brooks,
Mel
kind
Brooks.
of like
Mel Brooks.
over the top
Slapstick.
Yeah, like now it's going into a little bit of slapstick rather than like grounded zany. But then just to like completely refute that, where else would you get that combo? That combo just doesn't exist anymore. Even going back to the Mel Brooks stuff, like that stuff doesn't fly today either. People aren't doing comedies like that. No.
Well, we kind of brought it up earlier. Napoleon Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
That I think what also makes that movie funny, aside from like original writing, but a level of zaniness as well.
But it's grounded. It's so plausible.
I never knew that I needed a dance scene quite so well, or just the shot of being towed on 10-speed with your rollerblades to react some kind of laugh. But I think those kind of push the boundaries into funny, and that's what they were trying to do here. Mm-hmm. I mean, a news crew that's going to follow you up to the top floor as you're quote unquote strapped with dynamite to get the news story. It goes into over exaggerations of gutless security. The public that doesn't know, except for the one little boy who's able to ID the really large man and his skinny counterpart coming back into the building 5 minutes later. And then the fact that like you threatened an entire boardroom of people
to get what you
blowing
wanted
them up, and then you didn't. And then everyone's cool with that and doesn't have PTSD and is like not needing medical attention right away. I don't know.
Well, that contract doesn't hold up. Like you can't force someone to like.
Yeah, he's definitely under duress.
But I think once we've
Save the flavor,
established,
kid.
I think we've established enough of that zaniness as
in the car.
movie goes along. Yeah, like we just even just him like having karate time with the things that are the hooks and stuff. Like we just start building on these things, and as we go along. So when we get to, I have a bomb strapped to my chest, but it's just road flares. Like it kind of all bets are off at that point. Like everything's just like it's anything can happen. And I think that's okay. I think we've established that.
Maybe I needed one more upgrade point in between from lighting the dude's car on fire on his desk and then like realizing that's my superpower, and then I'm gonna strap pretend bombs to my chest, like something maybe a little bit in between where it's like limit testing a little bit, or like something that like takes me to that last step. It felt like
Tommy doesn't
really
have
compressed.
the limit testing.
They did it compressed. They got crushed right out of the gate. No. Mm-hmm. So by the time we get to the car, that's the turning point towards exile. Mm-hmm. And then the waitress is obviously the finale of that. But yeah,
like
it was like
to lose. Yeah.
he started to be more comfortable in it, but he didn't know how to harness the Hadouken, and he was just we flamed that guy's desk.
I mean, that he did hit him with a 2x4 randomly out of nowhere. Like,
doesn't hurt here.
I think that
something loose
here.
I think we got to that. I think that might have been it. You just kind of, I guess I didn't stop and realize the whole, like, it's just that funny bit where he's just beating the crap all out of him, and then all of a sudden he comes out with a 2x4, and I'm like, wait a minute, they're on the side of the road in the middle of Ohio somewhere, or wherever the hell they are.
From? Yeah.
Right by
Where
the
did a
prehistoric,
2x4
forest?
Yeah. And like, I mean, hit somebody with a 2x4.
In nature.
They're going to be in a real bad spot. I don't think they're going to get up and have some wingies after that.
Maybe.
I just love how the way they pan over until you see his face, and you're like, my face hurts, man.
What happened to your face?
You lied to me. I mean, it's a 2-scene setup. Like, you're in a different location before you get the payoff on that. And you thought the payoff was him just getting knocked out, and he's like, oh, prehistoric forest, and he just is like, I don't even care about this. And you're like, that's funny. And you're like, but I have this headache, and it hurts right here. When he turned, the reveal was great.
It was great. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the writing team for this movie were SNL, at least SNL movie writers. Like, they did a lot of the other SNL movies.
Okay.
They had the treatment. I mean, I feel Lorne is a very involved producer with these movies when his name goes on it and he's out there. And I'm sure
they were writers on the show too.
Yeah, I'm sure he brings the people with him. You know, he entrusts. And another thing is, I didn't realize how hard Lorne Michaels went in the paint for the music to these movies.
Just actually sourcing music for the movie.
Yeah. So, I mean, by the time we get to Superstar, when they're in the car together, I mean, they went through like 40 some odd songs, and he was out there personally doing FaceTime with artists trying to, get favors and royalties down on them. And that's also, how Bohemian Rhapsody and Wayne's World comes to be, is because it was so cheap at the time and no one wanted to really play ball. And I mean, that revitalized Queen to a whole new audience. This one didn't exactly open the Carpenters up, but this is also another one of those times where this was a real life situation that they wrote into the movie. I think with a CD or something that one of the writers had in the car. But yeah, they both tried to act macho when Superstar came on and then started crying at the end.
And then start crying. Oh my god.
Baby, baby, baby.
It's fine.
The note I did make about music, I knew that they got at least a good a bunch of songs that they probably had to pay a lot of royalties for, especially probably REM at the time, which that was a pretty popular song. I mean, it was only a short bit of it.
That's I think that's technically an 80s REM song. Or, I mean, we're in 95. I feel like that was much earlier in REM and like lower in the catalog than what they were pushing at that time.
Not as pricey.
Yeah, because I mean, like this is post like Losing My Religion and Everybody Hurts type art. I know these are just words that are flying right over Steven's head right now, but there was a time where
87. You were right. You're spot on. 87.
What a time! 40 years ago.
Just knowing how Lorne was, it was probably a cheap song, and it could have been My Sharona if it wasn't more expensive after being in Reality Bites or something like that. That's how I look at it. But I love the music choices in those movies, all of them.
So the other thing I noticed about the music, though, is it is kind of I guess I'm trying to, when I was watching it and taking note of this, how many other comedies, if this is kind of standard issue comedy thing, there's so much just music beds everywhere. Travel music bed, a goofy little sting here and there, and just music. There's not a ton of scenes that just stop and have nothing. And I guess that it does propel the story and it does propel the comedy in some aspects, but I was just noticing how much music there is in this movie. The first 20 minutes is literally a full music bed. I don't think there's a break in the music at all.
It feels theatrical and not like a theater. Like I don't feel any of the things that they were trying to convey in the scenes, like on the sailboat and have a real moment. You couldn't have silence there because there are no real moments. Those are just setups for a joke that's about to happen. And in order to propel your audience, as you say, I think that music kind of gives it the lightheartedness to grab your hand for that trip.
And I think if you had removed a lot of that, in this movie, it would have been a much different feel overall.
I almost feel like this would be one of those YouTube clips. It was like, Tommy Boy, have you ever seen a more crazy individual? And it's just all the music dropped from it, and you're just listening to dialogue. It was like going to the building with a bomb strapped to him, holding up banks. It was like the super edit to make evil Tommy Boy. Throwing that out there in the world.
Hey, maybe somebody will grab it up and make a re-edit of it.
There's something that they made scary by doing something similar to that. Oh, Polar Express. There's this whole cut of Polar Express that they just made scary by like changing the music, and because like nobody blinks and the animation's kind of uncanny. It's just like, why is this scary?
Just is. It's all the power of editing.
It's all the power and empathy and
knows.
conveying emotion through the sounds and lighting.
And we got to see old VHS cameras again in this thing.
Oh yeah,
Like shoulder cam that I know we've all seen at points in time.
I mean,
really
they just
felt
had them
like
at
you were someone.
the Super Bowl. They still have the big cameos for broadcast. They don't.
Yeah.
They're not analog signal, but it's digital. It's kind of the same body. It's fine. It's a vibe.
It is a vibe.
It's a choice.
Speaking of vibes, Bo Derek, I thought was interesting that she had a really controlling husband during this time, and he made her cut her hair like the day before production. So,
Really?
yeah, I mean,
I didn't know that.
she was known for long hair and whatnot, and
that's what I thought.
She came out with the mom do on that. I mean, I still think she looked great, no matter what haircut she had, but I thought that was really weird on his part.
Yeah.
But controlling relationships.
It wasn't to like
fact.
let's come out iconic here and like get like separate yourself from like nothing like that. It's just like literally chalked up to like spousal abuse.
Yeah,
Yikes! That's wild.
chopping your hair off.
Jeez. Like,
Well, I mean, that's what Demi Moore did in Ghost. She chopped all her hair off.
from her spouse at the
Not
time.
from a
Oh,
relationship.
okay.
No, but I'm just saying, like, it. No, but yeah, she did that for Ghost. I'm pretty sure.
That's yucky. I mean, not it's
Then she
yucky
shaved
on
it off
one
for
way,
G.I.
but
Jane.
then yucky not
We
the other way.
digress.
Oh yeah, she did. Well, yeah, she had to for G.I. Jane. I think that was a personal choice for Ghost.
All right, back
That
to
wasn't
Tommy.
a fun fact at all.
I want to go look at haircuts now.
I know us Cam and I growing up in this time and watching this movie, the quoting this movie is so has been and to this day is still quoted in some capacities or another. Like SCHNIKES is not there anymore, but the housekeeping. Me fluff your pillow. I mean, I think that just happened up in Maine.
week.
Go knock on someone's tent and housekeeping.
Let's go away. Yeah, I feel the Farley Spade is my spirit animal. Both of them. I need both of them.
And what? Oh, you go, Steven.
What was with the bald like hair flip up? Like, was David Spade like balding, or is it just like a straight
No.
gag? Okay,
Straight.
That's a gag.
just straight gag. Okay, perfect. I thought it was.
Like if you look carefully, you can see like the bald cap and the.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
laughing. I thought it was funny. Like his genuine like like that's why I was like, oh, are they just like really poking fun at him? Like, is that a real thing?
No.
My guess was it probably was a long-standing like you wearing a hairpiece because he's got that
Yeah.
the long
Yeah.
comb over ish thing. Like, so I'm guessing that was probably one of those long-standing SNL late night jokes, and they were like, let's put it in the movie.
Put
I
it
love
in.
that. I love that.
Now, so this movie didn't make a lot, like Katherine said. It's interesting that they went and doubled down in '98 and did Black Sheep as well. If
Yes.
this one didn't do hot, I mean, I guess it probably would have. Well, now that I'm saying that, I guess it would have been out on DVD or VHS by that time, and saw that the revenues most likely went up and went, okay, maybe we need to do that.
Yeah, as long as we break even in theater, we'll make it up in post.
That's
home release.
That was an article I read a while back about Matt Damon talking about how films back in the 90s are completely different than how they make them now, because you can depend on that home video making that additional cost up. So that's just really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's completely on them to fix that, so...
Yeah.
Well, Chris Farley was a hot commodity coming out of this movie. He was instant stardom. They wanted him for all sorts of stuff. So 2 years later, being in Black Sheep is kind of on brand after going through that cycle. And apparently,
it was only a year
supposed to
later.
a year.
Yeah, it was
was
in
supposed
90.
to be
Came out in 96, so they must have went right into filming that, even though I mean, it made its money back, but it didn't really go above and beyond.
Well,
It was
bad
supposed
blood.
to be Shrek. Yeah.
Some bad blood from Tommy Boy bled into Black Sheep also, because
really?
the girl at the
I
pool,
remember hearing that. Yeah.
Lori Bagley, was a friend of David Spade, and she actually hung out with them around the shooting, and she got put into the movie by the writer. And over time, Chris Farley started dating her, and I guess I created a jealousy between Spade and him. And that kind of bled over into Black Sheep too, because I think he was dating her by that time, and there was some animosity on set as a result.
So I also saw that they cut out that scene, when it released, when it aired in, maybe it was France, but they cut out her taking off her bathing suit and him unzipping his pants.
Oh, weird. And then put it in later, years later. I mean, it did push the envelope, and honestly, that whole scene was kind of sketch too, because she got written into the show. They were all apparently friendly with each other, and then it became, will you get naked on it? And she was concerned, as any woman would be, I would imagine. And Chris Farley had to make her comfortable on set, and then it happened, and I was like, that's yeah, you're right. I don't think that movie would be made today in those kind of circumstances. Because that was definitely a bait and switch into a movie. If you want to, go back Monday morning quarterback and be objective about this, yeah, it was a girl you were hanging out to. She's hot, and you write her into a movie. And by the way, this scene requires you to also get naked, and you're like, I could have just jumped into the pool and been just fine, but they didn't exactly show it on film, but there's an entire crew of 100 people behind her getting naked. So, while it looks like no one at the motel had their windows open, which was also a mental gymnastics of just that woman being there and being like, oh, it's late at night. I just saw this guy going to the weight room. It's about time to get naked, right?
Harvey.
No.
Never happened.
No.
All right, so I know we brought up Rob Lowe. I've seen him recently. The man doesn't age.
Nope.
No.
The man doesn't age.
He's doing real good. Literally. I was thrilled when he made it into Parks and Rec. I really loved him in Wayne's World. And by the time we get into this movie, I feel like, when was Austin Powers? Austin Powers was later, right? Like 98?
I think so. 99?
97.
97?
First one.
Yeah.
97.
Spy Who Shagged Me was 99.
So, we go from Wayne's World to Austin Powers. Rob Lowe's been a good supporting comedic actor for what he brings to the table. He's not supposed to be funny. He's supposed to play to the scene, and he does that perfectly in all of those.
I really did like the seatbelt coming back and ruining.
That's part of the period piece. They don't
Exactly.
do that anymore.
Because like, what do you mean the seatbelt moves? I ain't never seen that before.
I used my Honda had that too.
Yeah,
I do
My
remember
grandma's car
that.
had that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, my grandma's car.
It was man.
Yeah.
That made me die more than the slapstick. I was like, oh my god, the seatbelt comes back.
It does.
What a time!
Just can't get away with any of those things these days.
Right? Yeah, because like, what quirky thing are you gonna do with a common era car? Like, I don't know. Maybe like the key fob falls out and they can't start it and they're just mashing the button. I don't know. I feel like cars take such a back seat today in cinema.
There was the inferior Vacation remake where they had a whole joke with the car being like too advanced and they couldn't like understand how it would work, and it was constantly changing languages on the GPS and they couldn't fix it, so I was like screaming Korean at them the whole movie.
Yes.
Are
Okay.
we talking
So,
about
like, yeah,
National Lampoon's?
Lampoon's Vacation?
the remake one, yeah.
Oh, with Ed Helms. I did not
Yeah.
see that one. Okay.
But the running joke with the car being too advanced and they can't figure out how to charge it and this and that, like, it was good.
That's ambitious to think that Helms could fill those shoes, but
There were parts of that movie that were pretty good, but yeah.
I thought about it and I was like, I could give this. I'm gonna give this I'm gonna give it its due. I'm gonna let it see if it can wow me, and I didn't get to it. So
No, I know that.
need to go-
There were some
I
jokes
need to go
in it
back
that were
and-
good, but yeah.
yeah.
Clip
need to go
farming
back
in
and check
Hollywood
it
is
out.
crazy work. Let's make
Speaking
$1
of
million
which, National
movie for
Lampoon's Vacation.
shorts. This will do
Yeah.
numbers on TikTok.
Oh no.
All right. Do we want to get into some scores for this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Catherine, you want to start off?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. So
All
for
right.
nostalgia and bias, I'm going to give this one pretty high. I'm giving it an 8. I grew up with this film, watched it constantly, quoted it all the time. Like, this movie is like a piece of my childhood, for sure.
Excellent.
I even had Fat Guy in a Little Coat as my ringtone at one point, which I thought was really funny.
I didn't even go that far, but I should have.
Oh, yeah. So, high on nostalgia for this, yeah. Production value, this was a low-budget comedy film, so, like, I'm going to give it a 6. There really wasn't, there's not a whole lot of where it shines in editing or special camera work. There was some really great work with the deer, particularly, and how the special effects of the deer just like destroying the car and getting a shot of the deer on top of the car was apparently one of the hardest scenes to film. They had to
imagine.
yeah, I think it took tons of just them like putting tons of food and I don't know, deer urine on the car to like get it to stand on the
nice.
car.
deer shit also.
Oh yeah. Yeah, deer shit also. Yep.
I mean, that is the running thing in
Tons and
Hollywood.
tons of
Never
takes,
work
yeah.
with children or animals because they're very unpredictable.
Yes.
That's probably where this budget got eaten up, is just days burning film.
On deer.
waiting
Of just
for
trying
the
to get that
there.
deer on the car.
Yeah.
Yes, because it was, yeah, trying to wear it down so it's not scared of the film crew. There was a scene, maybe it was my streaming, I don't think so, but there was a scene, maybe it was at the wedding or when he just first met Bo Derek, or like it was just really fuzzy. It just didn't look like it was in focus. I don't know if anybody else noticed that.
No, I think that was
No.
your streaming.
Buffer.
or whatever.
Maybe it was buffering. I don't know.
Buffering
Cut to
issue.
the next scene and it was fine, but I don't know. But it just was like that's weird. So I'm giving that a 6 on just like production value and everything, just because it was low budget. It's not where the film shines, obviously.
Yeah.
But for spirit, emotional value, and intent, I gave it an 8. They definitely did what they wanted to do with this film. They had that they had the heart, where Tommy has that emotional connection with all his father's employees. He grew up with the company. He wanted to save it and do everything he could, but they also had that balance with all of that physical comedy. So I think that really balanced well. And then for rewatch, I gave it an 8. It's a cult classic. I've seen this a million times. I'll probably see it a million more. And overall, a 7.
Okay.
So that's a 37 out of 50, so 74%.
All right. Cam, you want to...
Old haterade over here.
Yeah.
This movie, nostalgia, as Nick said, it's definitely a movie that we still recite to this day. It is ingrained 100%. In us. I definitely saw this in theater. I had it on VHS. I probably got it from Columbia House.
Columbia House.
Paramount House or whatever it would have been at that time. Nostalgia for me is 9. Very, very high. And it's in my blood. Like I said, my spirit animal. I am very much antagonistic, passive aggressive, as all of them can be in one. I definitely like rizzing people and trying to get the best out of them. But also those are the people that I probably spend most of my time with anyways. So if I'm not doing that to you, it it means that I don't love you at all. Go away. No. Production on this, I have to agree with Katherine. It's low budget comedy, and there's not a whole lot going on. I think all of the budget's probably spent on what they did with that car, either getting it and destroying it and putting all of the deer stuff in it. Not to mention the thin candy shells that are now back against the radiator and whatnot. It's not good.
His brain has a thin candy shell.
Yeah. What? So yeah, production on this is a 6. Spirit intent for a buddy comedy trying to save the day. I really feel that they hit the mark on this. They showed what a screw up this guy was. They showed his transition. Yeah, he knows the town and everyone loves him, but at the same time, they're adults that have lives and have dependencies, and they're like, this guy's a moron. I would not, entrust my life into his ability to sell 500,000 brake pads. So yeah, I think they hit the mark on that. I'm giving it a 9 on this. For rewatchability, I have seen this movie plenty of times. When it came out, since it's come out, I watched it again. It still made me laugh today. I would say 10. Overall, I go on an 8 on this. It is a really good comedy. I think it does still hold up. Some of it is... Actually, all of it is wild as hell. None of it's believable, but that's kind of the place and setting that they give us in this. So overall, an 8. Total score 42, which gives an 84%.
Dang, Cam.
Well,
It's probably my highest film review. I like
the movie. Cam likes something. He does like cinema.
I do.
Pause.
For
did
all
it
the
beat
wrong
Scrooged?
reasons. I think it beat Scrooged. I like Scrooge. I think Scrooge was young, more in my younger years. I was a junior in high school when this came out. I, transitioned into the workforce and wound up spending my own money to get these things. So I loved this movie, and it made me laugh constantly.
This is Cam's favorite film to date.
So far. I wouldn't put it in my top. I don't think I could put it in my top 5, but it's definitely a movie I like. It's no Gremlins, that's for sure.
So we're hunting for the top 5.
Yeah.
I won't tell you what it is, but it exists. It's out there.
You've got to like and subscribe, and make sure you check out the Funky Store.
There you go.
Thank you.
Cam is
doing
helping
my
you with
job.
those shameless plugs.
He's got his soundboard there. Bam, 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 bam.
We're rolling. I'll do it for Nick while he's calculating.
Calculating.
All right, Steven,
He's
I'm
mathing.
jotting down everyone's numbers for editing later. Makes things easier.
My turn. My turn.
Your turn. Yes.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where Steven falls on this one after
Absolutely.
this heated discussion.
So, nostalgia, hadn't seen this film, highly quoted it, seen clips. I was just so impressed about like everything that I loved about that time period. Granted, yes, it was filmed in that era, so but it was fun. It was really fun. I enjoyed it way more, and I felt like I had seen this film before, and I felt like it was a part of my life prior. So usually I would give something like this a 6. I gave it a 7 because it just really knocked it out with that. Production value, they didn't do anything too like over the top. I really like the real sets, and like I think what really set the tone for like my immersion and everything is how realistic the factory was. Like everything was like, I don't know if they went to a factory or whatever, but it wasn't like a big foam hook or whatever. Like it was good.
I just found out before we started recording. I believe it was a like a beer bottling plant or something like that they went to. I think it was in Canada. But anyways, they did go to like it wasn't an auto parts factory, but they were able to make it look like an auto parts factory. Serviceable set.
Yeah. Like just go someplace and shoot something and have a blast doing it, light it properly, like perfect. But you know, nothing that was like too out there. I loved what they did with the car, like the fact that they actually just like did it.
Yes.
I was immersed. I like immersion for me is a really big, like if I don't notice editing, if I don't notice like set flub ups or makeup or costuming, that's good for me. So I gave it a 7. I think it was really good. It's hard for me to say like, oh, where would I have given points back? Maybe just like some of the deer stuff was a little bit like they didn't do anything too like out there. I don't know. It's a 7. Spirit and emotional value, I think they made a buddy funny hee movie, a second coming of age film, like late in life coming of age, like finding yourself. I think some of it is a little bit disingenuous or a little bit like redeeming the Nepo baby is always like a weird kind of like track to take. So
Yeah.
it was a good job. They created a character that was like someone that you can root for, that had enough flaws to make sense within the world. I totally get that.
When you talk about the Nepo baby part, and sorry to cut in on your scoring, but I think the redeeming quality in this was that he just thought he was going to go back and work in the factory like he had before. So yeah, he's a Nepo baby, but I feel like he was doing the labor of all the other people there, and that's probably where he got that level of respect and camaraderie, is being around and living and working with those people in those times. So being thrust to the front of the company based on dad's, like, it definitely had you rooting for him. But yeah, that's a tough one to overcome. Like, the kid that has had everything given to him, let's watch him get more.
Right. But they
he
did
seemed very surprised that he was getting his office too.
Oh
Yeah.
When he offered them the office, he was like, holy.
Grounded. Like, they set the dad up as like a goober that's like, I'm just gonna overlook all this and like we're gonna go. It's my way. Like it's fine. Like, I'm gonna make it fine. I'll be here to take care of you, son. Like we're just good. Like, I believe in you and it's gonna be good, Tommy boy. Like we're on the precipice, and like that didn't go that way. And like, it's all very compelling in that story, that arc. But again, I'll say just like if you're like picking it out, like, how do we want to do it? Redeeming the true blue Nepo. Maybe if they didn't have like the true like frat boy like beginnings of that, like maybe he was just like, oh, I'm just really struggling, I'm really trying, like it doesn't really matter anyway, I'm just gonna go work in the factory, like I'm not, like it's just whatever. But like it was great, it was good. So I gave it a 7 because I think that is like, you're not really like treading a whole bunch of new ground. It's really relying on the talent that you have, because like if you put someone that's not Chris Farley in this, I don't know what this film is. So I put it at a 7. Rewatchability, an 8. I definitely watching this again. It was a really good time. I really enjoyed it. I've done myself a disservice on waiting on these films for whatever reason that I can come up with at any given time that I haven't watched a lot of this stuff. But I will be putting in the work when I'm in the nursing home watching. I'm just going to put on these and then just relive it all. And then overall an 8, I think there was a ton of effort put into this. It is a lower budget. It is kind of like the SNL like fan favorites of that time, putting some together and having a good time doing. So 8 out of 10, putting me square with Katherine at 37 out of 50 for 74%. So.
Nice.
Nice.
We're still in a nice little cluster on this target.
All right, Nick, where do you land?
0. No.
No, yeah. Nostalgia bias. I don't like this movie.
No.
0.
No, Cam's knows that's not going to happen.
He's possessed him. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
So nostalgia for this one, I give it a 10. This is been with me for 30 years. Watched this hundreds and hundreds of times. Quoted it. Still quote it. Still do fat guy in a little coat whenever I can get my hands on a coat that is far too small for me.
Do you actually rip
Upon
it?
watch, no.
Okay, good.
Have
So
I done?
there's ground to tread. I like that.
I think I
Push us further,
tried
Nick.
once. I think I
feel like
tried
Chris
once,
may
but
have lost something, or Danny, but who knows?
potentially. But I think I did it once, and it just ended up like coming so far up on my arm, like it didn't actually want to rip. Not to bring this down for a minute, but I was watching it this time, realizing that this movie helped me through a hard time in my life where I lost my father, and this was something that I could gravitate to, and I saw myself in this character. Not only do I resemble Chris Farley in some capacity, but he also lost his father, and I'm like, wow. I didn't know it then when I was watching it, but years removed, I can see that. And when that Amazing Grace hits, oof, a little bit of tear, and I'm like, okay, all right, we're back into the movie. But it definitely, and it also, I know we talk about representation these days, and like this was my representation. Like, I didn't see a ton of, yes, there were like John Candy. I listed out a whole bunch because I knew somebody was going to be like, wait a minute, but like, John Belushi, but at that time,
John
like Dom
Goodman.
DeLuise, but they were all,
Lot of
those were
Johns.
older, but those were all older men, Chris Farley was at this time, I don't know how old he was when he made this, probably in his
25,
mid-20s ish. Yeah,
24. That's what I'm guessing.
That's what I'm guessing. So, I mean, me being 15, 16 when this came out, he's still like within
accessible.
a decade of me. So I could, accessible, exactly. So I gravitated to this character, and I mean, it allowed me to also kind of break out of my shell and be the goofball that I wanted to be, or that I knew was there. And I was just kind of, not that I wasn't, but I definitely reined it back for a lot of years. And when I hit that 15, 16, we're trying to find our personality and who we're going to be. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I could act, this is something that I could be. This is who I am. I can outwardly show this and not have everyone make fun of me for it. Because look, this guy is making movies over here doing the same thing.
We made fun of him for other reasons.
Don't let him lie to you.
But this got him sleeping easier at night, so I'm all for it. But yeah, no, we leaned hard into
He worked
our
hard on
characters.
that bit. He wrote that one down, Cam, and you just got to do it like that.
No, that was all off the cuff.
He showed us our heart, and we hit it with a hammer, and then turned the fryers back on.
Oh my god, it's like that TikTok. It's like, hey, if I
Hit it
call
with
you,
a
if
2x4.
one of my favorite bits is like the guy playing video games with his friends. He's like, hey, if I was going through something and I called you, would you pick up? He's like, no. I hope it's hard what you're going through.
That's love. love. That's love. That's East Coast love. I don't know how to tell you I love you without smacking it through your head.
Yeah, yep.
Continue,
I
Nick.
think I've said that. No, that's. I mean, I've said that. Like when Cam said it early. I was like, absolutely. Like if I'm not razzing you, and I've said this out loud to people, if I'm not razzing you, that means I don't love you. Like, or that means I'm like, there is not as a deep of a connection there.
I don't care enough to be creative.
I think technically Cam said rizzing, so I guess it's kind of the same thing. That's
Yeah,
what
you would say.
No, there's not a.
It's got to be up on the new lingo.
Sorry, Unc.
No, not the big unks.
Kids on the Discord. They have aura, apparently.
Aura. Mad aura.
Mad aura.
All right. Well, Mad Aura, I'm going to go into production value. So 10 on
Using it wrong.
nostalgia. I know.
Fraudulent. Absolutely diabolical fraudulence here.
Production value. I give this a 6. Katherine pretty much said everything I was going to say. Like, it's a fun script. It's a great comedy, but it is a simple movie at the end of the day. No camera tricks. I mean, maybe some camera tricks, but nothing flashy. It's put the camera down and let Chris Farley play in the scene. And it didn't need to go crazy. And that's not again, I don't take this 6 as a negative score. It's just, there wasn't the level of Gladiator or Godzilla or something up there. And so keeping it simple and is what it needed. So I'm giving it a 6 for that. Spirit, I gave it a 9. It's a great buddy road trip movie. And there's 2 dynamic characters that are adversarial to each other, and it's fantastic. And rewatchability, 10 across the board, just because I can't not rewatch this movie, and it's one of those that I will always go back to. And my overall is an 8. This is, as I just said, this is comfort food for me. I will forever go back to this movie and remember my childhood and the good times that this movie has brought myself and our group of friends, and being able to, quote this movie and whatnot. So that brings me to a 40, total is 43% out of 50 is an 86%.
Nice. We landed pretty close to each other, and I cannot eat shrimp without thinking about David Spade.
That's true.
I'm constantly looking at the level of deveined that's going on with the shrimp for no reason at all.
Shrimps are bugs. Shrimps are bugs. Don't eat. No,
they are.
I cannot
tasty.
recommend anyone eat shrimps or bugs.
Very good.
You know what? We do a lot of great things here on Gen Wars. That's why you like and subscribe, so you can learn all of the cinema masterpieces that have come before and are upcoming. And you want to make sure that you catch everything that we review here over on Gen Wars. But do you know what? Everybody here has a channel. We're working together. We're doing a lot of great things. You have our wonderful head honcho, Nick, over at Fire Hazard 508 Creations, making playthings and to display things. You have his loyal servant and everything that is Gen X over at Never Touching Grass with Cam, where he's doing everything Call of Duty, zombies. And then you have the always Disney millennial, Katherine, over at Spectrum. Jesus. Spectrum. Oh, man, it's a flub up. No.
Steven, what's happening to me?
You have Katherine over at Spectacle Views, living her best Disney millennial life. I think there's a whole bunch of rides shutting down, and she's documenting it because it's over there changing. So check that out.
Things are changing.
Yep, over at Spectacle Views. Then you have my channel over at Funky Games, where we're playing through all the quintessential video games, because I'm a video game poser as well as just a movie poser. So I appreciate when you check out all of our channels, and I'm sure everybody else does too.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this has been great, and make sure you leave some comments down below or leave some comments about movies that you'd like us to review, and get our hot takes on them, and throw some curveballs in there for Steven, because You know, I mean, you could throw anything in there, and it'll.
Anything was fine because he hasn't seen anything.
I haven't seen anything. We mentioned 3 or 4 films in this episode that I have
And
not
you
seen.
did not.
Ne'er one was ever witnessed.
We didn't even
Now we
drop
need to start
Rambo.
doing like.
I've actually seen Rambo, so we're good.
Okay.
Wow.
Knew who Brian Dennehy was
Now we need to
beforehand.
Stephen needs to start listening to music too.
Music?
Oh,
What's
yeah.
that?
That's another podcast. We'll start that one later.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
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 Bye.